In this video, we learn how to program our Elgato Stream Deck to change resolutions on the fly with the click of a button. Here I have the resolution of 1920. That's regular HD resolution. On my Stream Deck, I have another button here that will set it to 2560. So with the click of a button, my resolution has changed. Let me change it again to something even bigger, which is the 4K version on button 3. Now I'm at 4K. 1, 2, 3, it couldn't be easier. Let me go back to 1920. So if you're interested in how I did this, stay tuned, sit back, relax, and I'll give you a very detailed video on how to do that. If this is not what you're interested in doing, please go on to another video and don't waste your time. Now, let's begin the lesson. There are some prerequisites in order for you to have success with this. Prerequisite number 1, I'm only doing this on a Macintosh. Prerequisite number 2, to immediately change the resolution on the fly like you just saw, it was instantaneous. You need an M1 Mac or better. M1, M2, a future M3, maybe an M4. Any of the silicon chips will allow you to change your resolution on the fly instantaneously. If you have an old Mac, that would be one good excuse to get a new one. All right, number 2 or number 3, prerequisite, you'll need a helper application called Display Menu. That's an application that allows you to change resolutions on the fly. That's what's doing most of the heavy lifting, and that's where the secret sauce lies. That app costs $1.99 on the App Store. As of this video, we're here early 2023. And the fourth requirement is, well, we're doing this for the Elgato Stream Deck at the end of the day. However, if you have another product that does something similar, we are going to be making an application that application will change the resolution, so you might be able to use any device so long as that device can call an app. You can even assign it to a shortcut or do any number of things. But I'm going to show you now the ingredients to make this happen. The first thing you need to do is you need to download and purchase Display Menu. That's the application called Display Menu. Of course, I'm going to go to the App Store to find this app, and then I'll do a search for Display Menu. Step 1 is really easy. You just buy an app. So I've already bought this, so I'm going to quit out of this now, and I'll just show you the end result. Once you install Display Menu, already you have some immediate benefit from that. At the top, you'll be able to see this icon which lets you, on the fly, change your resolution. So if you don't own a Stream Deck and you're not really interested in making a button, this app alone is already worth the price of admission, because this makes it a lot easier to change your resolution and kind of see where you're at without having to go to the system settings. In addition, it'll let you change from any connected display. So if you have 2 or 3 displays connected, you can do that here on the fly. So that's a great little app. I've been using it for years now. And as a course creator, I find that I always have to change resolutions often because I record most of my stuff in HD, but then I convert it to and edit it in 4K and export it to 4K. And the reason I do that is because if you record things in HD on your desktop, your applications are really magnified and makes a good lesson, yet it's still clear at 4K when you export it. Long story for another day, but that's what I do, and that's why I'm changing my resolutions literally 20 or 30 times a day when I'm going from recording to editing, back to recording, back to editing. All right, so now that's step 1, is download and purchase Display Menu. Step 2, we need to make our application in AppleScript to call Display Menu so that it can do the magic. So to do that, we already have something built in on our Macintosh. It's called Script Editor. It's been built in there for years. Maybe the name has changed over the years, but it's called Script Editor. And when you open that for the first time, it'll look like this. It's a blank canvas for developers. I happen to be a developer, so this doesn't scare me, and it shouldn't scare you either, because this is literally 1 line of code and we'll be done. And I'm going to show you how to do it in this video. So after you're done, you can proudly say you made your first application and you learned it on YouTube in about 10-15 minutes. And your friends and family will be really impressed with that. And maybe you'll be inspired to actually take this to another step further and learn AppleScript. And the power behind AppleScript alone is mind-boggling on a Mac. Okay, that's it for the side note. Now, once you open up Script Editor, you want to locate the library for the brand new app that we just installed called Display Menu. So I'll go to File and open a dictionary. I call it a library. It's actually called a dictionary. And this dictionary will select Display Menu first. So just double click this and the display menu dictionary should appear. And this dictionary simply means these are the commands that AppleScript can call. This is your dictionary of commands that are AppleScriptable. All right, here's the code. First, we need to determine the actual nomenclature of the display itself that you've got. So decide, before you do anything more, decide what resolutions you want to make buttons for. If you want 3 or 4 buttons, fine. If you want 1 or 2, that's fine. If you want 1, that's fine too. Most likely you're going to have 2 resolutions. So now's your chance to manually switch to that resolution. So you can use Display Monitor to do that. Let's say you want to pick 1920 by 1080 as your starting resolution. Fine. Set your monitor to that and then type the following. Tell application, and put this in quotes, display menu, and then we'll look at our library here, our dictionary, to current resolution. So tell application display menu to list current resolution. And then use this icon here to run the script. And the result will tell you what the application sees as, oh, this is the resolution. Now, this is really important. You have to take note of this because you're going to be typing this here in a second when we make our first app. So I'll copy that to my clipboard. Let me just do that now. And I'll copy that to my clipboard. So I have that on my clipboard now. Now I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'll still say tell application display menu to select resolution, and then put what you copied on your clipboard in quotes, 1920 by 1080. Then we'll test that. Now, if you're already at that resolution, you won't see anything happen, but if it didn't give you an error, that's a good sign. That means it's typed correctly and that we're ready to go. And that's it. This one line of code is your entire application to change the resolution. How does this happen? It's actually calling an app that already knows how to change the resolution called Display Menu, the one we bought. And the AppleScript is simply a means to an end. It's simply the trigger effect to say, hey, call this and set it to this resolution. So that's what this command here does, select resolution. Now we need to save this as an app. So just go to File and Save. Choose the file format, Application. This will actually make an official application. And give it a name. I'd like to call this one 1920 because that represents the resolution, and it's going to be really easy for me to identify this later. Oh, that's my 1920 app. If I double click and open that app, my resolution will automatically be set to 1920. All right, I'll save that on my desktop. And there it appears. Now you can give it your own icon if you want. That's really not required because chances are you're going to hide this somewhere and call it from the Stream Deck environment. So that's our first app. Let's build our second app. So let's change our resolution to, let's say, in my case, I'm going to go to something that it's still readable here on this video. I'll go to 2560. It's a little less magnified, sort of a medium resolution. And then I'm going to just make sure that I change this. So let me do this, tell application display menu to list current resolution. This is just to make sure that we've got it typed out correctly. So I'll push the play button there. And there is the text that I need to use. So I'm copy that to my clipboard, change this back to tell application display menu to select resolution. And then I'll paste from my clipboard. That's the 2560 by 1440. And then I'll test that by hitting the run script now. I didn't get any errors. That's a good sign. And then I will duplicate this. This will allow me to change the name of this app. Actually, I think I can just, let me duplicate this. And now it's called Untitled 1920 Copy. So let me save that and make sure it's still set to application, and then just name this 2560. Okay, so now I have my resolution 2560. I'm going to put it on the desktop. It's the file format application. Click Save. And there on my desktop is my second application. So what we're going to do here in a minute is we're going to tell Stream Deck to call those applications, and voila, the screen will be changed. Now, there's one little pro tip here. If you want to make more resolution changes down the road, you want to make more applications to change to other types of resolutions, you might want to save this as a template so that you can come back to it later and tweak things. So let's do that now. I'm going to duplicate this one more time, File, Duplicate. And this time go right away to File, Save. And then we can go to the file format, change it to a script type, and I'm going to name this, let's call it Display Change Template. And we'll put that on the desktop. I'll have it, again, it's a script type. So now I'll save that, and it will look more like a document and less like an application. Now go to File and quit your script editor. Okay, now if you come back a week from now and you say, oh, I want another resolution change, or I want to tweak it so that not only does it change the resolution, but I want it to also quit out of these applications, or I want it to change the resolution and open these applications, you can build all that within AppleScript and have that AppleScript execute all those commands as one little application bundle, if you will. So if I double click this now, it will open up the script editor and show me my template, which will give me a reference to say, oh, that's how I change the resolution. You'll just have to remember to open your library, or open the dictionary rather, and then select Display menu to get back there to refer to what other things you might be able to do. As an example, if you have multiple monitors, you can select the resolution and then you just tag this at the end of it on display. And as long as you type it correctly and have it all perfect, it'll change the resolution on a particular display. So if you have multiple displays, you can have this one at 1920, this one at HD, and a third one at something else. And this can do it all with multiple commands. So in order to do that on a second display, you'd have to know the name of that display. So I'll just quickly show you that here because I've teased you. Now let me just show you how to do it. Tell application display menu to list displays. Okay, and then run that. And then these are the two that I have connected. I have a Dell display and my Apple Studio display, and that's how they're listed and named. So if you were going to change the resolution on one display or the other, anything other than the default, you have to write this whole thing that is tell application display menu to select resolution. Then you put in the resolution in quotes, space, on display, and then in quotes, you'll either put Studio Display or Dell, whatever displays you have. So that would be the full command if you wanted to put this change against a particular display. If you are happy with the display to be changed on the default display, you don't need to specify the on display portion of this command. You just leave it as is, and the default display will heed your command and go to the resolution you specified. All right, so that's it for Script Editor. And then the final piece of the equation, which you might already know how to do if you own a Stream Deck plugin, a Stream Deck application or unit, but I'll show you anyway. I'll go to Stream Deck, the software itself. And in this case, I'm running a Stream Deck Plus. So let me just change my resolution here one more time. Go to 1920 here. Perfect. And I'll create a new page. And this is going to be programmed as a button in this case. Just locate the Open option, which is under System, and you just drag the Open in as if you were going to open up any other application. Again, this you probably already know how to do this, but I'll just call it 1920. And then I'll choose the application that I just made. I happen to have it on my desktop. And yes, I'll say OK to allow the folder, and then I'll say 1920, and I'll click Open. And now my Stream Deck has this as a button. And I'd like to give it just a fancier icon rather than the typical script icon. So I'll do that now and open up the Stream Deck icon library. Again, you probably already know how to do this if you have a Stream Deck, but if you don't, then this will be a lesson for that. I downloaded a third-party Shield theme icon set here, which I think is pretty cool. And then I think one of these is animated. One of these are animated. I'm not sure which. I guess the ones that say GIF are animated. So if I wanted to pick one of these animated ones, let's just say I'm going to pick, let's say the number 1. All right. Now I've got my icon for that. And that's my 1920. And I will copy this and paste it over here to my next button. And of course, you can kind of predict what's going to happen next. I'm going to call my 2560. and then make sure I choose the application 2560. It gives me the generic icon, but since this is selected now, I can go right back here and just double click 2 for the GIF, and then we'll have an animated icon there on number 2. Now, the first time you open these applications, you might get a security warning that's typical for the Mac, which says, do you trust this app? Just click open. So you can manually test this now. I'll double click 1920 and that goes to 1920. I think it did, maybe it didn't. Let's go to 2560, went to 2560. But so somewhere along the way, I messed that up a little bit. Let me just fix that now. I'm gonna delete my 1920 app. This might happen to you too. So let me just open up my dictionary again. And this will be a good review here, display menu. And let's just say, tell application, display menu, current resolution to list current resolution. Okay, perfect. That's my 2560. Let me manually change it to 1920. There we go. Let's double check this. Let's copy that to the clipboard. Copy that. Let me just delete this. Tell application display menu to select resolution. That from the clipboard. Test it. I didn't get an error, but let me test by going away from this with a crazy high resolution and then going back to this. Okay, so it seems to work now. Let me just save this. And that's the script. I didn't mean to do that, but let me do a duplicate. And let me go to File, Save. And we'll save it as an application and we'll call it 1920. It looks good. I'll save it to the desktop. There we go. Quit out of that. Test it one more time. Good. It didn't move because I was already at 1920. I'll go to 2560. That worked. Go to 1920. That worked. Because this is referencing the same thing, it should work here on my Elgato. Let's test it on the Elgato. Let's go to 2560 and 1920. Perfect. Okay, and that concludes this lesson. So we learned how to use display menu to change the resolution of our monitors by way of the Elgato Stream Deck, and we created our own custom application using Script Editor to call the display menu for one resolution or another. One last pro tip here, if you have multiple computers, let's say a laptop and a desktop, or you have two desktops, one at home, one at work, you can save these applications in your Dropbox folder so you sort of have a shared folder to share your applications. And the Elgato Stream Deck can call applications that exist in the Dropbox folder, for example, and that just makes it a little easier for you to sort of have a shared environment so that when you do have your Elgato in two different places, you can sort of build in your environment so that you don't have to duplicate all these files and move them all around. You just reference it through Dropbox. And I find I do that a lot, not necessarily for applications, but for preferences and settings. I put it all in Dropbox so I can refer to it in a central location when you have, let's say, a laptop and a desktop that you're trying to get work done in two different locations or two different environments. Thanks for joining me on this video. Hopefully you learned something. You can pat yourself on the back for creating your first application, if this is in fact your first application. If it is, leave a comment. Let me know how it went. I don't know how much tech support I can do on this. Like I said, I won't be doing Windows, and I know just enough AppleScript to be dangerous here, but it was a solution I had to get out there so that you guys could enjoy this. If you wanted to do things like me, where you wanted to change your resolution with a button and you didn't know how, this is an easy way to do it. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you on the next one.